once the selection is over. Good evening and welcome to Shattering the Consensus. Protect Life's interview with opinion formers, interesting people, figures that are not being covered by Ireland's mainstream media for very good reason. They might break the narrative. Tonight, we're very lucky. We have the very wonderful Niamh Boyle. And Niamh has a great story to tell. She's also one of my favourite people. Niamh, welcome.
Thanks very much.
Niamh, you're married to Liam, who is in the audience that the internet audience can't see. And you've got how many children?
4 children.
4 boys?
4 boys, yeah.
How did you meet Liam?
I met Liam in college in DCU. We were doing accounting and finance together, so we're together since we were 18. So
I'm not even going to ask how long that is. Oscar Wilde.
About 5 years.
Yeah, about 5 years. Yeah, about 5 years. Oscar Wilde said, "Never trust a woman who tell you her age. She'd tell anything." So, you both did finance. So you're both in the same line of work then?
Well, we're both chartered accountants, but I've been a stay-at-home mum now it'll be 9 years this year. So.
Okay, so you've stayed at home,
Yeah.
took time out of work, and you had 4 boys.
Yeah.
But that's not why you're here tonight. On the birth of your 4th child, who is...
He'll be 3 in August.
He'll be 3, so that's 3 years ago.
Yeah.
Something happened.
Yeah.
Tell us about that.
Well, to make a very long story that wee bit shorter, after I gave birth to my 4th baby, I developed an infection, which subsequently turned into sepsis. And
So you are a sepsis survivor?
Yes, I am indeed, yeah.
Okay. How did this affect you? What happened without going into all of the details? I don't want to pull you through that.
Yeah, well, part of the treatment for sepsis, depending on the state, I was in toxic shock, so the treatment for that, to keep your blood pressure up and to keep your vital organs alive, is they have to give you what's called suppressors, which keep most of the blood supply around your torso. And
so the blood supply is restricted to the central essential organs.
Yes, exactly, that's what it is.
Effectively
organs.
Sacrificing.
Yeah, so it's I guess it's life or limb. So what it does is it essentially cuts off the blood supply to your extremities. So people have come away from this having lost 2 hands and 2 feet. You know, it's I suppose it's what's necessary in order to keep your organs alive.
You were reduced to this life and limb scenario in hospital.
I wasn't awake for that at the time. I was on a life support machine. So
how long were you on life support?
9 days.
Now, you're on life support 9 days, you've got a tiny baby and a husband with 3 other children. That must have been, you were unconscious, it's been dreadful for you. That must have been a harrowing time for Liam.
It was. He spent a lot of time obviously in the hospital. The baby was admitted for IV antibiotics to be treated as well.
The fear was that your little baby had the same infection.
Yeah. So he was in for about 10 days, I think. So I guess my husband was between ICU with me and the
neonatal unit.
Neonatal unit, yeah. I didn't see the baby there at that point. So
you're unconscious.
Yeah.
For the bulk of those 10 days, you are actually unconscious.
Yeah.
Okay.
Now, I suppose as each day progresses, that for every day longer you're on that system, your chances of survival go down. So.
The longer you're on these vasosuppressors?
It's not just the vasosuppressors, but it's just that the odds of survival, the odds of waking up go down the longer. The
longer you were unconscious, because the illness has been worse.
Yeah, well, it's just taken longer to isolate the infection, to treat it, and then to get your organs up and running again, and for you to breathe on your own. I was in acute lung failure as well, so I couldn't breathe on my own. So I suppose the purpose of the ventilator is to keep your lungs breathing.
Ventilator is keeping your lungs breathing. The vasosuppressors are restricting blood supply to, as you said, your torso, the major organs. You are almost dead, in a sense.
Yeah, pretty much.
You're being artificially kept alive.
Yeah.
You came through.
Yeah.
But at a high cost.
Yeah. So I lost well, pretty much half of my hand and half of my foot. So.
Now, you didn't lose those immediately. You come out, you become conscious, you're in recovery, but your hand is dead. Is that?
Yeah, I think I always say that because a lot of sepsis stories that I've read, people have had these surgeries and amputations done while they were asleep, on the life support.
But you didn't.
No, I think I would have dealt with it a lot better if I'd woken up and somebody had said, your hand and your foot,
If you'd woken up with them gone.
Yeah, I think that would have been a lot easier to deal with. But obviously.
What were you presented with when you woke up?
I was just told, I actually kept forgetting because I think it was just coming around from the medication. So each day I had to be told again. So
that must have been harrowing.
With a black hand and a black foot, and and when I would forget and then look at it and what happened, and then you were reliving it, I guess, every time.
So day after day you had to relive the loss of your limbs.
Yeah, and then I guess it was maybe 4 weeks before I actually went for surgery. So
you're 4 weeks there with this
looking at that,
hand.
I thought that was pretty difficult,
I think you're right to think that was pretty difficult. That was awful. I can't imagine how dreadful that was. And also, at this point, you're very weak.
Yeah,
You've been very sick.
I couldn't do anything. Like at that point, I couldn't lift my head off the pillow. I couldn't lift my other hand up to feed myself. It was you were basically relying on just round the clock care. And funnily enough, the only thing that I could think of when this was, when I was told this, was I'll never play the piano again.
I'll never play the piano again. Were you good on the piano?
Yeah, that was like a raison d'etre for me. It was.
You loved
I didn't
piano.
make a living out of it, but I went up to the final exam, and it was just.
Wow.
I was passionate about it, and any time in stress or anything, you'd sit at the piano and you could just forget about everything.
Music was your release.
Yeah.
What did you play?
Well, Furelise was my signature piece, and it's really frustrating when you're on a phone call and you're put on hold. Furelise is played, and it's like being taunted. Yeah.
The universe taunts you because, of course, anytime you pick up a phone now, and people, I would say if our audience tonight still have their phones on, which they don't, somebody has it as a ringtone.
Yeah.
So
that was a hard pill to swallow.
It must have been. It was a big loss.
Yeah, because when I was in the hospital, you're being looked after by everybody, so you don't realise how much you need two hands. So the only thing I could think of was
piano.
Piano.
But you have 4 small children.
Yeah, but it didn't register.
Not then, because it's not what you're facing. It's
it wasn't
the loss
I
of.
got home that I realised, wow, this is so difficult.
So hard.
No idea, I always say easy examples that people don't think of: to put your socks on, to put 4 kids' socks on, put toothpaste in your toothbrush, tie your laces.
How many people can imagine what it's like to wear not 1 but 4 small boys and just have 1 hand?
Yeah.
It must have been horrendous.
And just, I suppose, feeling quite regularly like a failure when there was tasks you couldn't do or took you longer to do, and when you're in a hurry trying to get kids out to school and it's taking that wee bit longer to get laces tied, and it's stressful.
I can't imagine what it was like to tie a small child's laces with 1 hand. I can't. I have difficulty tying my own laces sometimes if I get confused. So I can't imagine what that's like.
The internet is great. There's a lot of people out there make a lot of really good videos.
Showing.
And help people.
So you found a community of people with amputations.
Worldwide,
The internet has its massive advantages. You didn't leave it at that. You did 2 things. The first thing I think we should cover is you have a fairly dramatic prosthesis.
Yeah.
Do you want?
Yeah, I don't know if you can see that.
Oh, they can see it, and our audience are actually, and you're absolutely open about this. You don't hide it, which is wonderful.
Yeah.
You had to fundraise for this.
Yes. My husband did research. It was actually quite difficult to find this, and we found a company in Scotland, Touch Bionics. They've subsequently been acquired by a company called Acer from Norway, but they're based in Scotland, and we found this and we thought, wow, this is brilliant. This will be the answer to everything. It'll be my hand back, And then we discovered that it cost €65,000 and the government don't pay for it.
Hold it up for us again. This robotic hand costs €65,000, but the government doesn't contribute a single thing to it.
No.
Nothing. So you fundraised for this and got it.
Yeah.
I can't imagine it's like having your own hand back, but it must have been a huge improvement.
It feels very close. To tie your
It's that good.
Yeah, you open a bottle, a jar, any kind of task that you need to hold something taut with one hand and do it with the other hand. Do you know what
Yes.
I mean? You can hold
Yeah.
it, you can grip it, you can open a bottle, jar, you know.
You can actually use two hands again. Did it take getting used to?
The guys that came over from Scotland to do the training and stuff said that I'd actually learned how to use it very quickly. It's about muscle, because I think sometimes some people, if they have like traumatic amputations through a work injury, like machinery, you can actually damage your nerves, and then in that case, it mightn't function.
It's much harder to connect it then. Yeah.
Yeah, so that you mightn't be able to operate it as effectively, I guess. So.
But you are. Now that wasn't the only thing you did. You have become a campaigner.
Yeah.
What have you done?
Well, as part of the fundraising, I started a campaign for sepsis awareness. The way I looked at it was, if there's one person out there who hears my story, is aware of the symptoms, and it prevents one person losing their hand or losing their life. Or
You didn't want this to happen to any other woman.
Yeah.
So you started campaigning. How did you campaign? What did you do?
Well, the story was picked up very quickly, actually, when we started the GoFundMe account. Radio, TV, newspapers, you know,
Yes.
and I thought, well, this is a great platform to get information out there, you know.
That's amazing. You used the GoFundMe account and the fact that you were raising the money as a publicity to campaign to let women know that they could get sepsis in the days after childbirth.
Yeah, it
That was great.
That way. It wasn't the original intention.
Of course. No, it does.
That's the way it turned out, and it was.
Yeah. So I know you've talked to nurses, you've been have you been to the nursing schools?
Yeah, I was in the DKIT in Dundalk talking to the nursing and midwifery students there, because I thought, these are the people on the front line, these are the people who are going to meet women just after having babies. And
before and after, yes.
Yeah, and you know, these are the people that need to have these conversations and say to people, watch out for these.
What do you say to women? What is your message of what they should be aware of?
Well, you know, some of the symptoms obviously have to be picked up in a hospital. For instance, an infection level in the blood.
Yes.
You know,
the elevated
high
blood cell count, pulse racing or going too slow.
They're kind of things that are going to be picked up in a hospital. But in a home environment, you can watch out absolutely for a high temperature. Shivering and shaking is a big. Feeling
cold.
Yeah, that's a huge.
But your skin is hot.
Yeah.
Okay.
Difficulty breathing. You know, it's a very, very difficult feeling to explain. I know that if I ever got sepsis again, I would recognise the feeling.
You'd know.
But to try and explain, it's a very, it's a kind of a real panicky feeling. And you can't, it's almost like...
You know there's something wrong, but you don't know what it is.
You know, and you're really agitated, and but it's almost like you need to live it to know what that, to identify.
But you can warn women that if they have feelings like this, inexplicable feelings like this, temperature rising, chill.
Chills, a big one.
I think one of the phrases you used the first time I met you was, if you have a shiver.
Yeah.
You recommend women go back to their...
straight away, because there's no point in taking a risk and having a what if, and if I'd only, you know...
Don't take a chance.
Yes, absolutely.
Let the hospital rule it out.
Yeah.
Sepsis became a big issue in this country after the death of Savita Halappanavar, and it was a big issue for campaigners against the Eighth Amendment. How did this make you feel?
I was genuinely hurt, I'll have to be honest, because I started a campaign 2 years ago to create sepsis awareness, in particular maternal and postpartum sepsis, to save lives, to get, you know, this message out there. To get the message out that women could die of this if they weren't caught in time. I mean, we watched that. You know, what happened to Savita Halappanavar was an horrific, you know, unforgivable event, and, you know, no family should have to experience that. No woman should have to experience what you went through. And so I was trying to campaign for awareness, for women to be aware of these symptoms so that it can be treated, because sepsis is about early recognition and rolling out sepsis protocols for this treatment. And then I felt that the campaign was hijacked to achieve something in exact opposition of what I was doing. And not only was it entirely inaccurate, the information that was being given to women is dangerous.
It's actually dangerous.
And lives will be lost because of it. You know, to feed inaccurate information to women that the silver bullet for this disease is to terminate pregnancy it's very, very dangerous. It's about early recognition, treatment, antibiotics, IV antibiotics, oxygen, all of these things that need to be delivered in order to treat this. And these symptoms will be missed. And
in the rush.
Yeah.
In the rush to justify an abortion referendum, to justify the introduction of abortion.
And no, you know, rolling out sepsis protocols can be done in a pregnant woman.
Yes.
It's not harmful. You roll out these protocols, you treat it, and you don't waste any time. You
don't waste time. Catch it in time, don't waste time.
And if you're not looking out for these symptoms because you feel that there's this magical
there's a bullet
that is it's as I said, it's inaccurate and it's dangerous. And I felt just genuinely hurt that
it must have been terrible.
Yeah, I just thought, I actually for a while I stepped back from the awareness campaign because I just didn't want to be associated with something so inaccurate and dangerous.
And so cruel.
Yeah.
You've not stopped. I know in the last couple of days you've done something absolutely dramatic. Can you tell us what it is you did yesterday?
It was this morning, actually.
This morning.
Yes. So this morning I went into Louth County Council and I, you know, gave my intention to
You're stuck for words. Now, that's wonderful, because here we have a young woman who is running for local government, effectively a politician, but she's stuck for words to describe herself.
Yeah.
I think that's wonderful, because I've never come across a want-to-be politician who was stuck for words. They normally keep talking.
So
you're running, but you're not running as an independent.
I'm not, no, I'm running with Renew Ireland.
Why Renew?
Okay, so first and foremost, obviously, they're a pro-life party, so that's a big part of my background.
To run, just to clear it for an audience, to run for Renew, you must be pro-life. You can't run for the party unless you commit to 6 pillars, and one of those is the pro-life position.
Yeah. My background has always been pro-life. It made sense to me. I can't explain other than that.
Reflected your values.
But what I would say is that if I hadn't been prior to being sick, you know, I don't think you can balance between life and death and come back the same person. You know, I've discovered, you know, irrespective of what went prior to having sepsis, that life is so precious, and you don't know how precious it is until you're
on the cusp of losing it.
And you know, you will hold on to life with everything you have.
And you did.
Yeah.
You did hold on to it with everything you've had. How is your campaign? You nominated this morning with Louth County Council.
Yeah.
How is your campaign going?
Well,
is it a massive campaign so far?
Well, I've really only actually started on Sunday.
You just started on Sunday?
Yeah, I'm late to the game, but I'm going to give it my all over the next few weeks.
Late is fine.
Yeah.
Short, sharp, hard campaign. You're going to need help, aren't you?
Yes.
The audience here tonight and the audience on the internet. If you're in the Dundalk area, if you're even in driving distance of it, here is an amazing candidate who needs help. There's, 4 weeks to go? In or about? Actually, there's a little over 3 weeks to go at this point. So if you gave 2 nights a week, it's only 6 nights of your life to this amazing woman. Niamh, thanks for being with us tonight. You're extraordinary.
Thanks very much.